In the matter of State of Minnesota versus Kimberly Potter, court file number 27 CR 217490, we, the jury, on the charge of manslaughter in the first degree while committing a misdemeanor on or about April 11, 2021, in Hennepin County, State of Minnesota, find the defendant guilty. And the verdict was agreed to at the hour of 11:40 a.m. and signed by the jury person on 12/23/21. The verdict on count 2 is we, the jury, on the charge of manslaughter in the second degree, culpable negligence on or about April 11, 2021, in Hennepin County, State of Minnesota, find the defendant guilty. And that verdict was agreed to at 10:30 a.m. on 12/21/21.
Now, the two videos that you just saw juxtaposed to one another, the first one was Kim Potter's verdict, which was just read today. The second one was what she was on trial for, namely the shooting of a man named Duante Wright. He was a 20-year-old black man. Kim Potter worked in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota as an officer, as a police officer. And during this particular traffic stop, they were going to stop a gentleman who had previously had a gun crime charge, which he was supposed to show up to court for. He never did. A warrant went out for his arrest. They were the ones who happened to stop him. As you can see in the second video that I showed you, the gentleman, the police officer, the male police officer, hands him off to Kim Potter, who then he begins to struggle, jumps into this front seat of the car where the other officer is attempting to restrain him and stop him from driving away. Considering that the other officer was half in the car and half out the car, from Kim Potter's point of view, she was significantly worried that he would be dragged along by the car and potentially killed. In police circumstances like this, the argument that the defense made was that she was justified for use of force. If she had wanted to, she could have pulled out her gun, told him to stop, and shot him because Duante Wright was putting the male police officer in jeopardy of his life. Now, the prosecution would have you believe that she was aware that Duante Wright could have just driven off and not injured anybody because the male officer's shoulders were outside of the vehicle at that point. Me personally, I don't know that I would have been able to notice that. I'm not a police officer, though. The one important thing is that Kim Potter signed up to be a police officer, which means she has a higher standard of care when she's dealing with people than your average person. However, during this trial, there were many character witnesses who came out to speak about Kim Potter, including the police chief Tim Gannon, who had resigned from his position because he didn't fire her immediately. Now, you can say what you want about what happened in the altercation, but I personally believe that the character witnesses were effective. I believe that she was actually a pretty calm person, that she tried her best to go against violence. She never had any complaints against her. She was part of a team that was involved specifically in helping out victims of domestic violence. So if you called the police, you said that your husband was beating you up, the cops come, they arrest the husband. Usually they take your report and they leave. She was one of the heads of a police unit that they had put together specifically to go visit these victims a week afterwards, just to make sure that they're able to get all of the help that they needed in those trying times. You know, if you're a victim of assault or worse yet, sexual assault, talking to the cops and like dealing with all your finances and this and that and the other. And no, there is help out there for these kind of people, but it's difficult for those kind of people to reach that help. So Kim Potter cared enough about her community to go around and make sure that these people got the help that they deserved because they pay taxes into these programs. What I'm saying there is that This is the definition of what you would see as a good officer. This is a good person who tried her best to help her community. She wasn't, I mean, she was never even labeled as a racist. Like, this was a race-related problem. As a matter of fact, when she pulled out her, as you can see in the video, when she pulled out her gun thinking it was a taser, she says, taser, 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 when she ends up shooting him, and the next words out of her mouth are, oh my god, I shot him. And then she said something akin to, oh no, I'm going to jail. Now, the other officers were very consoling to her, saying, no, you're not. We understand what happens. If a person is running from the police and the police is still halfway in the car, halfway out, and he's about to step on the gas and drive off, well, I personally would hope that my police partner would feel enough to save me from that particular scenario. Now, what the other side would say is that this was a white officer who did not care enough about black lives, and because of that, she didn't carry the standard of care that she would for other people because it was a black man. Because of that, she wasn't paying enough attention. Thus, when she pulled out her gun instead of her taser, it was, I don't know if they were implying it was on purpose or they're implying that she was reckless. It doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. Obviously, they're going for manslaughter, not murder, because they're saying it wasn't premeditated. But regardless, this police officer is one of the ones that you would want in your local unit. Just because she made a mistake, and that's from all sides what this was, a mistake, I don't personally think she should spend 20 years in jail, but, you know, sentencing, we will see. The problem with this extends far beyond Kim Potter's personal case and the fact that I think she's a good cop and that she should not go to jail because of a mistake. But really, that doesn't at all matter. The important thing is that you need to play through what this scenario means. In this scenario, this police officer was attempting to use less than lethal force in order to take out a criminal who she believed was endangering her fellow officer. Because the argument that every police officer came in, they brought in a use of force defense expert who said that she would have had the right to use her gun. If she pulled out her gun and shot him, she would have had that right because the other officer was in such danger. What this would tell me if I was a police officer is to take some super glue, put it in the taser slot, and put the taser in, and never, ever, ever pull that thing out. You know, this is akin to the Derek Chauvin case, which, admittedly, Derek Chauvin, he had a lot of complaints against him, and the video against him was a lot worse. But when you when you arrest an officer and then try him and convict him in such a public setting for using something that their office told them to use, a less than lethal method of restraining somebody, well, you're turning the situation much more black and white. In Kim Potter's case, it looks like if she had just simply pulled out the gun and shot Daunte Wright, she would have been fine. I mean, there would have probably still been a video and everything, but it would have been within the law for her to do that because it was justified use of force. Because she made the mistake of mixing up whether it was a taser or a gun, this brings in all kinds of ambiguity to the situation, which was pounced on by the prosecution in order to get this nice lady 20 years behind bars or whatever. Again, all of this anti-police rhetoric, all of this fight the police, defund the police, all of this type of thing, all you're going to do is officers who are actual good people, who would normally go out and get hired at the police force and try to help their community, those guys aren't going to want to be cops anymore. A lot of the Black Lives Matter or the activist side of the left paints police officers as all bad, ACABs for all cops are bastards. And you'll see that along with BLM and tons of verified Twitter people, all of the better than us people have ACAB in their bio on their online nonsense. When you're saying all cops are bastards, the people who aren't bastards will leave, and you will have all cops being the bastards. Because if what you are saying is that these cops are going out and hunting down black people and or just people in general, trying to kill them, they don't care. They're the Stanford prison experiment where it showed that these people, when given power, go completely nuts and they're all evil. Well, who do you think is going to take that job? Who do you think is going to get the job where they say, oh, I'm allowed, I'm a horrible racist, I want to go shoot black people. There's a job for that, let me go there. When you put into society the idea that all cops are bad, you end up with all bad cops. When you put into society the idea that if you put a chokehold on somebody, or if you tase somebody and they have a heart attack, or if you accidentally pull out your gun instead of your taser and you shoot somebody and you get convicted, even though you had a right to use force if you had used your gun, well, the cops are just going to start shooting people, because shooting people versus not shooting people is a lot more black and white than, oh, I put somebody in a chokehold and now his legs don't work no more, so sue me for $1 million and put me under the bus. I am not saying that you shouldn't take these police and hold them accountable. What Kim Potter did was a horrible, horrible mistake that did not have to happen. Personally, Devontae Wright had a gun charge that he was being arrested for. I don't think there should be any gun charges. No laws should infringe upon gun rights or a right to bear arms. But we are in the reality that we are in right now. And when you take into that reality and attempt to justify the idea that all police are bad, you end up with bad police. This woman is going to jail. She's going to jail for a long, long time. After the conviction, or after the verdict was read, rather, the defense went into asking if she could maybe be let out prior to her sentencing, because spending Christmas with her family, she's a very devout Catholic, she's a pillar of the community, she's not a flight risk. However, the judge seemed to feel that she didn't want to show as if she was giving any special privilege to a person just because she was a police officer. That is insane, because I have the feeling that judges should judge situations like their title would imply. And this situation, the judgment call would be that she's probably not going to fly to Guatemala in a plane. She's not dangerous to her community. Want to spend one last Christmas with her kids before she gets shipped off for 20 years to whatever penitentiary she goes to. That seems reasonable to me. But I'm not a judge. I'm a simple, regular dude. But the problem, again, when you vilify cops, cops become villains. When you say that you will be arrested if you choke somebody out or if you use less than lethal means, they will use lethal means. The problem with this is what an activist organization like Black Lives Matter should do is they should want to not exist anymore. They should want to solve the problem and then cease to exist. However, most nonprofits, obviously, once they get in, realize that their entire business model is built on this problem. So, exacerbating the problem may be beneficial to them for both power and money reasons. When you have this, you're going to end up with a lot more of these videos. When you have this, you're going to end up with a lot more cops who are actually racist, who actually want to go out and shoot people. When you defund the police and you give them less money to pay their officers, they get less training, they get less hand-to-hand combat time, they get less of any kind of education. If you're going to pay cops less than you're paying McDonald's workers, you're going to have McDonald's workers as cops. I don't personally want that, but that's up to you guys. I feel for Kim. I feel for Kim Potter. I really do. I don't think she should go to prison. I don't think she should be a police officer anymore, but I don't think she should go to prison. Anyways, that's all for today. If you'd like to support me, feel free to go into the support links below. If you'd like to see me on Twitter, feel free to go over there. And you guys have a Merry Christmas. Until next time.